Atari's most recent set of offerings regarding the Plus line is a strange feeling one. It feels like people shouldn't be excited, as it's literally all things we've had in one form or another for a very long time now. Yet, people have been thrilled with the Atari Namco collaboration that's centered around Pac Man. We got yet another Plus console that does the same exact thing as the last two. We got Galaga, Xevious, and Digdug re-released for the Atari 7800, and every one of those games were already readily available for people who wanted to try them. And we got Pac Man Double Feature, a Robert Day Crescenzo joint that features the often maligned 2600 Pac Man game and a 7800 version of Pac Man that feels very similar in its DNA to the Pac Man collection versions. So with all that said, why am I so in love with this wave of releases? Well, we're going to discuss why and so much more upcoming in this video. This wave of releases has been made available in a couple different ways, especially if you count the Comic-Con and PRGE special editions of the Pac Man Double Feature. You can get each game in their standard editions from Amazon and Atari.com, among other retailers. But I chose to get all four of these games in the High Score collection from Atari. This release has a Digdug, Pac Man Double Feature, Xevious, and Galaga in color-coded boxes with matching colored cartridges, as well as a few extras thrown in. Those extras being in the form of a patch and a pin for each individual game. And I was surprised how much I liked the pins and the patches. The pins are enamel and look pretty attractive. They don't just have the name of the game, but fun little sayings and graphics related to the game. And they're kinda clever, if not just cute. But my favorite part of this package is the manuals, surprisingly enough. The manuals not only tell us about the games, but give a little history on the artwork and design behind each title. The Galaga manual, for instance, tells of the artwork to the game being done by Mark Erickson, and how he didn't want it to just feel like spaceships, but followed the bug design found in the actual game itself, which was pretty smart. The Pac Man manual goes into fun little details about who Pac Man is, what he likes to eat, and who he hangs out with. It's all fun little additions to the paper manual that you don't really get anymore in today's day and age, and it will surely remind gamers of a certain age all about how things used to be. Remember reading manuals? Yeah, we're that old. Beyond that, you get the paper sleeves for each cartridge, if you'd rather save room and display them that way. Now, even though Nintendo did something similar to this 35 years ago, it's still a fun touch that is long overdue if you ask me. Why weren't these sleeves done earlier? I don't know, but it's brilliant and simple. My only complaint in the whole presentation is how lazily Atari packaged everything inside of the box. My set came inside of a box that was much too large, and there was nowhere near enough packing material used. The result was a big dent in the corner that persisted through into the inner boxes. Beyond that, once I opened the interior boxes themselves, my manuals had creases and bends from being stuffed in with the patch and the pin. Atari, you need to shore up your quality control, as this is unacceptable. I mean, this is a special high score edition. I wanted it pristine, and it's such a shame because I'm really in love with this packaging otherwise. But the real draw, of course, is the games themselves, and these are some of the best arcade ports on the console. Now, Asteroids is obviously still the absolute best 7800 arcade port, but these are nearly just as good. The first game I popped in after receiving it was Galaga, and people really love this version of the game, despite it being the worst of the ports. But worst is subjective, and it's still good. The difficulty is way off from the arcade, and there really isn't any challenge until about the 10th wave. But other than that, I can't deny how much fun it is to play this game. And for a system with literally no sound chip, or that is, a chip that's working double duty to make sounds and display video in 2600 mode, Galaga manages to sound pretty good, at least in my opinion. Out of all the included games, I think a lot of people's favorite will be Galaga. Well, that or maybe one other game. It all depends on your taste, of course. The next game in this set, or series of releases, depending how you purchase them, that I think people will end up spending a lot of time with is Xevious. But this is very much dependent on taste and skill, because this game is brutal. I actually reviewed it not that long ago on the channel, so I'm going to keep my thoughts even briefer than with the other games. Be sure to watch that video after this one for my full thoughts on Xevious. But this game is a strong launch title for the Atari 7800 back in the day, and one that I'm sure many people will enjoy just as much now as they did back in the mid-80s. Digdug is the next game up, and it's one that was never really my cup of tea. But I can respect it for what it is, and it's nicely done on the Atari 7800. I want to mention something real quick before diving deeper. This whole set that I'm reviewing right now was called the High Score Collection, but I'm shocked that the Atari 7800 Plus didn't provide any access to high score cartridge features, or that they didn't do something to add in high score features. It's really weird if you ask me, but hey, what can you do? These are true to the originals at the very least. Anyway, Digdug is a game where you must clear out a couple different enemy types by either injecting them with air until they pop, dropping rocks on their heads, or chasing them off the screen at the very end of each level. But the enemies aren't defenseless, and if they touch you, then it's game over, or at least you lose a life. And the dragons can even breathe fire, but luckily for us, this move is telegraphed with the enemy lighting up beforehand. The digging and the pumping mechanics work well, and even with the game not being my favorite, there is no denying that this concept and port is very much fun. Plus, when you spend all your lives and have to restart, they place you in the last level that you completed, unless you change to one of the other 3 difficulties or change the number of players. So seeing the harder levels in this game is actually really easy to do, and I appreciate that. The last of the included games, and the one with some new content, is Pac Man Double Feature. And this is brought to us by the Atari 7800 GOAT himself, Robert DeCrescenzo, hallowed be his name. This is the man that brought us the 7800 Plus Pac-In game, Bentley Bear's Crystal Quest, as well as the Pac Man collections from years ago on Atari Age. This game features a nearly arcade-perfect version of Pac Man for the Atari 7800, as well as the before-mentioned maligned Atari 2600 version. Now, the cartridge uses those dip switches in the back to switch between the 2 games, and I personally hate the way they did this. I know, I should be used to it by now since every multi-cart that Atari has sold for the Plus line uses these dip switches, but man, they're unintuitive and they're ugly. Plus, they aren't couch-friendly, and I hate having to get it up every time I want to switch modes or games. But that aside, this is an excellent version of Pac Man. You can start at many different levels, play the sped-up mode, that was in the previous collections by Robert DeCrescenzo, and even play random mazes, which adds some much-needed variety to the original formula. If you like Pac Man, and grab the Atari 7800 Plus or the previous Atari 2600 Plus, then you'll want to grab this version at the very least. Now I just want to give my final thoughts and a quick score for each of these games before wrapping things up. As a set, the High Score Collection gets a score of 4 Pro-Line controllers out of 5. There are some great games included, some fun little throw-ins, and the manuals that are well laid out and actually interesting to read. The outer sleeve is very attractive, and the internal games are equally as nice looking. But if Atari continues to mail things in the manner that they did this, it's going to be rare to find one without any flaws or creases. As I previously said in my Xevious review, that game got a score of 4 Pro-Line controllers out of 5. Watch that video to find out why, but in summary, it's an excellent challenge and a strong game for the Pro system. Now when it comes to Galaga on the Pro system, it gets a score of 3 Pro-Line controllers out of 5. I know people adore this port, and rightfully so, but I can't ignore how slow it is to get challenging. That is to say that it starts out really easy for quite a long time. Because of that, it's a game I can only play occasionally, but it's still a lot of fun. And finally, Pac Man Double Feature for the Atari 7800 gets a score of 4 Pro-Line controllers out of 5. And the only reason I'm not giving it a solid 5 out of 5 is because the Pac Man collections exist. And if you own those games and the original release of 2600 Pac Man, well, then there isn't much reason to go back and buy this one. But with the Pac Man collections being out of print, it sure is nice to have this available to the community. But you guys have all heard what I think about the most recent wave of Atari Plus line cartridges, so now I want to hear from all of you. Did you pick these games up? If so, which ones? And what do you think of them? Do you agree with my thoughts on this set and the games, or do you have a different take? Let me know about all this and anything else you want to say in the comments down below. And please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. I plan on giving away a Pac Man Edition Atari 2600 Plus console if I reach 7,800 subscribers by the end of the year. And I'll have more details on that when I reach the goal. So subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified whenever I upload. Alright guys, I've been the 7800 Pro Gamer, a man who buys games I already own, as long as they have a fun new box, some patches, and a few pins I'll never wear, here at the Atari Network, and I'd like to thank you all for watching. And until next time, remember to stay classy, Atarians.